The Canadian Mining Hall of Fame would like to thank our legacy sponsor, Hecla Mining Company. Hecla is a precious metals mining company with operations in Canada and the United States. Hecla is the largest silver producer in the U.S. and Canada and has been delivering long-term value for shareholders and building a net positive legacy for all.
What is key in Hecla's culture is that safety, our commitment to the environment, and our commitment to the communities that we operate in, they all go hand in hand.
We've been in existence over 130 years.
We're fortunate here with Hecla in that we've had mines that have operated over 75 years.
We tend to be the largest private employer in the communities that we work in.
Hecla has evolved through all these years to take advantage and stay innovative and harness continuous improvement, which is a fabric of what we do in everything. And as silver grows and the demand for silver grows in the industrial and investment aspects, so does Hecla's role in providing that silver to the world.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We'll get everyone to settle in their spots here, and we're going to get our ceremony underway. I'm Anthony Vaccaro. I'm the president of the Northern Miner Group, and I'm also a board member of the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame, and I'm privileged to be your MC here tonight. I'm honored to welcome you all to the 37th Annual Canadian Mining Hall of Fame Dinner and Induction Ceremony. It's a big night. It's a big night. We're excited to share with you the outstanding achievements of this year's 4 new inductees, Patricia and Sheahan, Donald Roderick MacLean, represented by his family over here. We have Frank Giustra in the house over here, Frank. And of course, Mr. Sean Boyd. Sean. These 4 individuals, I say, are great leaders for both mineral exploration and within our broader mining community. And their stories and their distinguished careers are going to be shared over the course of this very special evening. I'd also like to take this moment to recognize the land that we are gathered on tonight. The Metro Toronto Convention Centre is built on land that has been under the stewardship of many Indigenous peoples, including the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Importantly, Canadian mining is proportionally the largest private sector employer of Indigenous peoples nationwide and has engaged, yes, our sector has engaged in over 500 agreements with Indigenous communities, and these agreements, I believe, chart a powerful path forward to economic reconciliation. So it's my great pleasure to introduce our sustaining sponsors this evening. We're very grateful for all of their support, which enables us to keep these great stories alive as we honor the best of the best in our industry. Please stand and give a wave when I call your name. Our legacy sponsor again this year is Hecla Mining, represented by Rob Krichmaroff. Rob is President and CEO of Hecla as of November. Congratulations, Rob. Our visionary sponsors, representing Agnico Eagle, we're happy to be joined by Amar Aljundi, President and CEO. Amar, thank you. Representing Franco, Nevada, we have Paul Brink, President and CEO. Paul. There he is. And from Hatch, we have William McCombe, Global Director of Gold, sitting at our table up here at the front. William, thank you. Our champion sponsors are Teck, and they're represented by their entire table. So Teck table, give it up. And also from TD Securities. Happy to be joined by Michael Farala, the head of Global Mining Investment Banking. Michael, thank you. Listen, because of your ongoing support, we are able to recognize these distinguished leaders and champion the important contributions that Canadian mining has made to this nation's prosperity. So thank you very, very much for your generosity. Listen, dinner will be served very shortly. Enjoy the conversation, enjoy the company, and we'll see you back up here after dinner. Thanks, everyone. Okay, everybody, let's get this amazing show started. You've all had a great meal, I'm sure. Coffee should have been served. The lights are blaring in my eyes. I guess this is it.
Thank you to our visionary sponsor, Agnico Eagle. Agnico Eagle is a senior Canadian-based and led senior gold mining company and third largest gold producer in the world. Recognized globally for its leading environmental, social, and governance practices, Agnico Eagle is a partner of choice within the mining industry. Thank you to Agnico Eagle for hosting tonight's VIP reception.
We are Agnico Eagle. We've been making mining work for over 65 years. How? By treating people and communities with respect, improving safety and environmental performance through innovation, by never settling on the status quo. It's about forging partnerships that make us stronger so that we can seize opportunities tomorrow. At Agnico Eagle, that's how we make mining work.
Okay. Again, everybody, welcome. You know, again, I'm Anthony Vaccaro. I was asked earlier this evening if I get nervous getting up here in front of the industry's heaviest of heavyweights. And you know, the truth is, yes, I am nervous. If it weren't for a little bit of friendly help. It works its magic every single time. It's a wonder. Anyone else partaking tonight? I hope so. Yes, it doesn't really look like a mock-teeny kind of crowd. That doesn't really exactly fit with mining. Listen, we're here to honor, of course, the newest members to the Hall of Fame, but also honor those that are already in the Hall. And the best way to celebrate, folks, is to have some fun, right? So let's do that. Let's have a good time. Speaking of Hall of Famers that are already in the Hall, we're really honored to be joined again every year. So many of these legends come to this cold, frigid city in January. Dr. Norm Keevil is here, came to town. Ian Telfer came to town. Doug Silver. Yeah, it's phenomenal. I mean, locals, Rob McEwen's here, Pat Dillon's here. Jerry Asp came in from Whitehorse, speaking to Jerry earlier. Pierre Lassonde is here. Now, a question, speaking of Pierre, that I get asked quite a bit. Actually, I get asked this every year, so a bit too much, is will I wear the golden jacket? Yeah, some of you in this audience have probably asked me this already tonight. So let me clear this up once and for all. Let me take this opportunity. The way I see it, the cape is Superman's. That little masky thing, that's the Lone Ranger's. And the gold tuxedo jacket is Pierre Lassonde's. He owns it. So no, I won't be wearing it. I'm not wearing it ever. I did consider the silver bow tie, but then I remembered that Ross Beatty was going to be here. I'm not messing with him either. You all know Ross is the nice guy, but Ross did business in Russia in the 1990s. All right? Here's a little tip in life. Don't cross anyone that did business in Russia in the 90s and live to tell about it. That's something you can go by. Bob Quartermain, Hall of Famer Bob Quartermain is here in town as well, sitting back there. Bob likes to celebrate an occasion with a nice dram of scotch. He's a true Scotch whiskey aficionado. And there's a story about Bob that I've heard, legend maybe. He was off on some far remote part of the world on a geological expedition. They had to trek through some jungles to go see some outcrop. So before they head out, their guide, bit of a gruff guy apparently, hands them over something saying, now you always have to carry a flask of whiskey in these parts in case of a snake bite. To which Bob, without missing a beat, says, and furthermore, I will always carry a small snake. I listen. You'll have to ask Bob if that story is true or not. Or you know what? Don't hassle Bob. You can ask me if that story is true or not. I'll let you know. Turning to our sector, it was a bit of a year last year. Sure, metal prices were good, but not everybody enjoyed it. Sean did. Sean enjoyed it. Hall of Fame, check. Bigger than Barrick, check. Yeah, well done, Sean. Well done. NMR. Good job, Agnico. Good job. It was a great storyline to share. The run-up in gold was fun, though. Hitting that record high, that was something for all of us in the sector to kind of enjoy. And it did mean that there was new entrants into the market, right? Those younger people, some of them did come in. They were paying attention. So for any of you in the crowd tonight that are maybe new to the space and you're looking for pearls of wisdom on how to make money on it all, I have very good news for you. You don't have to go any further than David Harkwell's introduction to this wise book, right? This is Tales from a Prospect Club. David was a member of the Prospect Club. It's an investment club. This book is fantastic. And in the introduction, David distills some of the most sage advice that he heard or overheard as years in his membership in the club. And I'm going to further distill it for all of you to just 3 little pearls. So here you go. This is all you need to make money in the junior gold space. Number 1, never bother about stocks with real assets or earnings. Very wise, very wise. Number 2, any stock trading under 5 cents, automatic buy. No research needed. Number 3, who needs research when I have an advanced copy of the press release? Now, I admit that one's not really advice. That's more like bragging, I think. But, you know, it's the olden days. Anyway, well, listen, when I put these together each year, I think I've been doing these for 5 years now. It's been a privilege to do it the last little while. I do try to pick up on what I think was kind of the big theme of the year, right? So last year, for those of you who were here, was geopolitics. You know, there were so many big elections coming up in 2024. Which reminds me, did anyone see how that US election wound up? I kind of managed to miss that one. But for this past year, the theme I kept coming back to is the theme of platitudes versus physics. That might sound a bit abstract. I'll explain a bit more. Brent Gilchrist, I got to give credit to. I think Brent's here, president of GDS. He did a great talk on this down in Washington, D.C. last year. It did inspire me, so give credit where credit is due. The idea is this. In the battle between platitudes and physics, physics remains undefeated, which is to say that the hard realities of life must eventually be confronted. Even though most people, I mean, mainly outside of mining, we're pretty good at getting this, don't want to confront them. So let's use this as a lens to look at the world that was this past year. We're going to start in China. China continued to dominate critical minerals processing, right? Almost all of rare earths, manganese, cobalt, lithium processing, all that is still coming from China. And that's a bit of a problem for us here in the West. So what's been our solution? Well, we write strongly worded memos about supply chain resilience while simultaneously blocking every permit application faster than a Sandvik drill bit through limestone. We gotta pay for this dinner somehow. All right, moving over to the EU. In the EU, they finally discovered that their net zero calculator needs a reality check function. Because it turns out that you need heaps of the raw materials our sector brings to the world for your wind and your solar. It also turns out that Germany's industrial economy needs the clean baseload power that only their former nuclear plants could provide. Their solution? Burn more coal. All in the name of the environment, right? And ESG funds. There's still a thing, ESG funds, despite those 3 letters taking a bit of a pounding this past year. And many of them were demanding that battery mineral production needs to triple. And at the same time, many of those same funds are opposing every new mining project on environmental grounds. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Here's a factoid for everyone. An average EV battery needs 20 pounds of lithium, 100 pounds of nickel, 200 pounds of copper, and an infinite supply of regulatory patience. not electricity. That was good though. I'm glad someone partook in that. It's gotten so hard to get this metal out of the ground that we all need so desperately that Norway is turning to the water. Don't know if many of you saw this. Last year it approved deep sea mining. Of course, the environmental groups went crazy, still not realizing where the bikes that they rode in on came from. But at least they're consistent. They now oppose open pit, underground, and deep sea mining. They got it all covered, except for space. And it's coming, right? It's getting much cheaper for miners to get to space, and it's going to be really hard for the protesters to get there on their bikes. So there's promise on that one. You know, closer to home, I came up with these facts over the last little while. So this one's about California, and at the time I was writing it, felt kind of, free and easy. But given what's going on in LA, I feel I have to, at least acknowledge that our thoughts and our prayers, I'm sure many of you here have friends, family in LA. So our thoughts and prayers are with them with the unprecedented wildfires. So take a pause there, and we definitely hope for a speedy resolution to a really tragic situation. But this talk is more about the hypocrisies of policy. And in California, they're on their policy side of things, things aren't making too much sense over there either. They mandated that all new car sales have to be electric by 2035, which sounds familiar in this country, I know. But then they told the EV owners that they can't charge during peak hours because of grid strain. Then they got their grid engineers to run the numbers, and a little bit belatedly, I would argue, and they found that they will need roughly the equivalent of 30 new copper mines worth of production to actually meet those targets. Meanwhile, the average permitting timeline in California remains longer than the half-life of uranium-235. And I'm only exaggerating slightly. So listen, as we honor tonight's inductees, the whole point of what I'm trying to get to is this. Let's remember and let's be proud of the fact that mining isn't just about digging holes. It's about building bridges. It's about connecting people, right? And it's about powering the future. It's the industry, as we all know in this room, that makes every tweet, every mode of transportation, and every God-blessed cup of coffee in the morning possible. It's a wonderful sector to be a part of, and I think we should all feel a lot of pride being a part of it, and tonight is all about that. So let's turn our attention to those individuals that help make this industry the great one that it is. Tonight's inductees. Pat Sheahan. Pat. There was a time, not all that long ago, when the Oppenheimers had all the diamond exploration information locked down and locked up. When I told my wife this story, she's like, there's got to be a movie about Pat. I agree. Pat broke this code in the 90s. She did it by realizing that the Russians were publishing academic papers on diamond exploration and that U of T had these journals. So Pat would set off, spend long hours, even learning Russian to decipher and then share through her newsletter the information that she was finding. And this newsletter became must-read information, and it fueled the diamond rush in Canada. Now we're going to learn a lot more about how Pat consistently broke not only codes, but also barriers as a pioneering woman, and we're going to learn all about that later in the evening. So Pat Sheahan, everyone. The late Don MacLean. In 1973, Don decided that he had enough of listening to other people tell him what to do, and he set out on his own. He started MacLean Engineering out of an apple orchard barn. Talk about humble beginnings. But what he did for this industry was anything but humble. Don's innovations revolutionized the industry on both safety and on the electrification fronts. Long before electric vehicles were cool, Don was already electrifying mining vehicles. So Tesla, when you want to get into mining, Don has left MacLean Engineering in a spot where they got to be your first call. And while our Don MacLean never wrote a rock standard like American Pie, for the older people in the audience to know what I'm talking about, our next inductee, Frank Giustra, he's kind of a rock star of our industry. His great success in both mining and in Hollywood comes from his drive for adventure and from always pushing through. For Frank, nothing is impossible, which means anything is possible. His latest venture is West Red Lake Gold Mines. At the Northern Miner, we're excited about this because Frank's passionate now about the exploration side of the business, and that's kind of a new field, and we all get to have a front row seat to see what Frank's going to bring to that aspect of the business. And then finally, Sean Boyd. Listen, the market cap growth of Agnico, I've already referred to it, it's a remarkable story. But the more telling metric for me is the people metric. You know that when Sean joined Agnico Eagle, he was one of only 5 employees. This was in the early 80s. Of course, Paul Penna, the founder and a Hall of Fame member as well, was one of those 5 as well. Now Agnico has 16,000 employees, and it's a Toronto-based company. So if you're based here like me, you meet people that work at Agnico all the time. And to this day, I have never heard anyone express anything other than enthusiasm for what a great company it is to be a part of. And that speaks volumes about Sean. Growth with integrity, putting people first, whether it's employees or the communities that Agnico operates in. That's how he did it, and that's why he's going into the hall. So everybody, here is to this year's crop of mining legends. Each one of them stood out from the crowd by digging deeper, literally and metaphorically, thinking more creatively, and leading from the front so that the world could benefit from their ambition. You're here. I'd now like to invite Deborah McCombe to the podium. Deborah is the new chair of the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame, and she is Global Technical Director at SLR Consulting. Before Deb speaks, however, we are going to recognize one of our visionary sponsors, so please pay attention to this.
Thank you to our visionary sponsor, Franco Nevada. Franco Nevada Corporation is the leading gold-focused royalty and streaming company with the most diversified portfolio of cash flow-producing assets. Its business model provides investors with gold price and exploration optionality while limiting exposure to cost inflation. Thank you to Franco Nevada for hosting tonight's after-dinner networking reception.
Franco Nevada is delighted to sponsor the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Anthony, and good evening, everyone. Bonsoir à tous. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here today as chair of the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame as we celebrate 4 new members. Since 1989, we've honored 208 leaders for their outstanding contributions to Canada's mineral exploration and mining sector, both here, at home, and abroad. We're fortunate to recognize several of these leaders who are here with us this evening. Please join me in welcoming Jerry Asp, Ross Beatty, Peter Bradshaw, Alex Davidson, Patricia Dillon, Dave Elliott, Norman Keevil, Pierre Lassonde, Ross Lawrence, Terry McGibbon, Philip Mackey, Rob McEwen, Bob Quartermain, Bill Roscoe, Ebe Shirkus, Doug Silver, Ian Telfer, Ed Thompson, Mac Watson. We are also joined tonight by the Honourable George Peary, Minister of Mines, Ontario. So I'd like to continue on 2 of their former members who have passed away. And this was Jim Franklin, who passed away in June, and David Ross Bell, who passed away on December 20th. Jim was inducted into the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame in 2019 for his distinguished career as a geoscientist who helped build and advance the knowledge base of Canada's mineral industry. He spent much of his career with the Geological Survey of Canada, documenting the evolution of the Canadian Shield and its phenomenal mineral wealth. Jim was a pioneer in the development of models and techniques used to guide exploration for volcanogenic massive sulfide deposits, and was a renowned consultant, educator, author, lecturer, and industry ambassador. David was inducted into the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame last year and was renowned in the mining industry for his pivotal role in discovering and developing the world-class Hemlo gold mining site in Northern Ontario. The Hemlo discovery's significance reverberated across Northern Ontario, creating jobs and stimulating local economies over 3 decades. The ripple effect extended beyond Hemlo, igniting staking rushes and exploration activities in neighboring areas. We will miss them both. I'd also like to mention the incredible generosity we've received over the past years from our members and select friends of the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame in raising support for our reserve fund that was used to offset the loss of revenue to our organization from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. We set a modest goal of raising $150,000, and I'm thrilled to announce that we exceeded our goal and have raised nearly $230,000. Thank you so much for those who have contributed. I'd like to give special mention to Jim Gill, who matched $50,000 through his foundation, Eric Sprott, who gave $25,000, David Elliott, who donated $20,000 to this initiative, in addition to his second annual $15,000 donation to the Hall of Fame, along with all the other generous donors whose names you'll see on the screen. Please join me in applauding our generous donors. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for, it's time to recognize our 2025 inductees, 4 industry leaders who are here to celebrate and honor. A message from one of our visionary sponsors before we commence.
Thank you to our visionary sponsor, Hatch. Hatch partners with their clients to tackle their toughest challenges in the metals, energy, and infrastructure sectors. Celebrating 7 decades of exceptional customer service. Thank you to Hatch for tonight's dinner wine.
Now the part that we've all been waiting for. Let's induct 4 incredible leaders into the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. Our first inductee this evening is an industry trailblazer, Patricia and Sheahan. Please turn your attention to the screen, and we're going to learn more about Pat's remarkable career.
Patricia Ann Sheahan's success is driven by her pioneering spirit, thirst for knowledge, and ability to connect with people.
I think that really is what has taken Pat to where she is now. You know, her personality and the fact that She's always hungry for information, and she's not afraid of communicating.
I'm grateful to Pat. She's always been a warm and welcoming person. Request for assistance was never too much trouble. I've known her since the first diamond session at the PDAC convention in 1993, so that's now 32 years. During that time, she's been an exemplary ambassador for exploration and mining of diamonds, and of course, for Canada.
Patricia, known to most as Pat, was born and grew up in Ottawa, where she studied geology at Carleton University.
I signed up the first day and thought, geology? I didn't even know the word, but it looked a little intriguing and I loved to be outdoors, so that helped.
When Pat graduated with a degree in geology in 1959, she was one of only 3 women in her class. Her first career opportunity came soon after graduation.
2 companies were looking for an office geologist, and one was Selco and the other was Texas Gulf. And basically, I liked the person that interviewed me for Selco, so I moved to Toronto, and I worked for Selco for almost 3 full years.
Following the birth of her first child, Pat wanted to keep current. She would park the baby carriage in the hallway at the University of Toronto and take her baby with her to the geology library where she would pore over journals. Soon, her former boss was asking her back to work.
And I said, well, I'd have to bring my baby. Well, that's fine. So I did. And on a handshake, I worked part-time when they needed research or something. And they became my first client for my literature service.
From 1962 until 1978, Pat became a consultant to Selco and other mining companies, providing essential information to geologists that helped them with their work in the field. In 1978, she created her own company, Consult International, Inc., where she began the Sheahan Literature Service.
She made it available to anybody. It's helped a lot of us learn about these things and then make us more useful as exploration people to try and find them.
Pat built a solid following with more than 400 subscribers. The service started with gold and base metals, but she had an interest in diamonds since 1960, when the only available articles were in Russian. To gain access, she took a night course in Russian.
It gave me actually the alphabet and keywords. So if I came across something, I would Xerox it and keep it.
Chris Jennings wrote, "The Sheahan Literature Service has been fundamental to the development of the diamond industry. Pat created a marketplace for ideas and knowledge about all the aspects of the genesis of, exploration for, and discovery of diamonds that has resulted in furthering the discovery of diamonds not only in Canada, but worldwide." Pat was known for her generosity, providing the service for free to companies who needed the information. By 1999, she had compiled 2 tons of paper-based research, which she donated to the Minerals Deposit Research Unit at the University of British Columbia.
I had something like 18 filing cabinets, filled the garage back to back, and I had the basement full. Unbelievable. I mean, the house was starting to settle, I could tell.
Pat's interest in diamonds led to the creation of the first short course in diamonds, held by the Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada.
Those short courses pulled in anywhere around 20 to 50 people. I had over 400. The short course started at 9 a.m. in the morning and finished at close to 11 o'clock at night. And it was a one-day short course. It was an awakening for really young geologists that didn't have any background in diamonds.
She brought in not only researchers, but she brought in companies that had found things and were able to display their technology that they used for finding new deposits or new occurrences, because it's a high-risk business looking for diamonds.
Throughout Pat's career, she was a tireless volunteer as a member and executive in many organizations. As a trailblazer in the industry, she was one of the first women to join the Toronto Geological Discussion Group, who held their meetings at the Engineers Club of Ontario, which later became the Ontario Club.
Women went in the door, but then you had to go right downstairs. You weren't allowed on what you call the main floor, okay, or the dining area. I got a call from a colleague, David Wall, and he phoned me and he said, I'm going to propose you as a member, a female member.
Pat was elected the first female chair and president of the organization, serving 2 terms. She has also received many honors for her work in the industry, including the PDAC Distinguished Service Award and the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Medal. During her career, Pat served as a board member for many mining companies. She also became a member of the September Club, a small investment group named for the month it was formed.
Pat was one who was often referred to whenever it came to buying or selling diamond stocks. She was the expert in diamonds and everybody deferred to her opinion.
Pat says she's grateful her career gave her the opportunity to travel the world, but of all her accomplishments, she is most proud of her family.
Firstly, 2 daughters, and I'm gonna cry. I have 3 grandchildren, 2 grandsons and a granddaughter, and 2 great-grandsons, 3 and 1.5. So I'm really proud of them. I think the other thing I'm very proud of is helping people, supporting people.
She's kind and supportive to her friends, to her colleagues, very supportive. And I think that has engendered a trust throughout her career where people could come to her and ask for specific information or for help or for an introduction. She's not guarded about that. She's open-handed about helping people.
86 at the time of filming, Pat still has the same thirst for knowledge.
I still go through journals. I still read press releases. Once you have a passion for something, you never give it up. You never do.
Please come up to the stage, Pat.
Good evening. Firstly, my thanks to the board of the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame for this honor. I'm very grateful to Jane and George Werniak for compiling my nomination and for the Northern Miner for considering me to be worthy of this induction. I want to thank Gary, my husband of 64 years. It was not common for a woman of my generation to work and travel and build a career in this industry. I have always had his support to take on new challenges, spend time with colleagues, and see the world. Many previous inductees have been mine builders. I choose to think my work has supported mind, as in MIND building, providing access to the right public information. And I'd like to quote Dale Carnegie, "Knowledge isn't power until it's applied." Luck plays a definite role in our industry. I studied geology by chance. Carleton University's geology department was strengthened by many adjunct professors from the Geological Survey of Canada in its years as a preeminent organization. I was very fortunate to find my niche early on. My passion for hunting down technical information led to my literature scanning service, which then proved to be a valuable product. My first client was Selco Exploration. The service soon generated interest from other companies and individuals, as well as universities. It truly has been around for 65 years. Most important was that the service should be useful. I made a point of listing every author and the location of the project, so many different parameters could be used. I also included press releases indicating new arenas of interest. The internet and the University of British Columbia's excellent library access made my life much easier. Less time spent in libraries, photocopiers, and post offices. I have also been a director of 7 junior exploration companies and was involved in 3 small diamond mines, River Ranch in Zimbabwe, Kelsey Lake in Colorado, and Jericho in Nunavut. One of the most rewarding opportunities was provided by, John Kaiser in 2012. John suggested compiling all the diamond references, starting from 1800s, into a searchable database. John would host and make it freely available for searching on his Kaiser Research website. He distributed my free monthly newsletter and added abstracts with each update. It was important to me that the listings for all meaningful public global diamond information is still available, including Canada's birth as a diamond producer up to 2022. I have been battling cancer for the past 2.5 years. I organized a PDA short course in March of 1993. Lee mentioned it, that lasted one very long day, 14 hours with speakers from around the world. But volunteering as publication chairs for many of the geological societies provided me with a learning curve, and preparing PDAC's annual Diamond Session programs was a challenge for 30 years. For my own information business, I attended many conferences and field trips around the world. These reinforced my ability to recognize the rocks and learn about new technological advances, as well as expand my circle of colleagues. Our daughter Dana, who is here tonight, I'd like to say a special thank you. She has been with me every step of my cancer journey. Thank you. Two other groups here are special to me. As mentioned before, the September Club Investment Group. We don't make money, but we certainly care. And the Vintage Women in Mining are here tonight too for me, and they are special. I have one last comment. I still have the passion to play a role in this great industry, but sadly, not the energy.
Beautiful speech, Pat. Congratulations. Thank you. Before we continue on, we're going to take a moment and we're going to recognize our champion sponsors.
Thank you to our champion sponsor, Teck. Teck is a leading Canadian resource company focused on responsibly producing metals essential for global development and the energy transition. Headquartered in Vancouver, Teck has world-class copper and zinc operations across North and South America and an industry-leading copper growth pipeline. Thank you to our champion sponsor, TD Securities. TD Securities, a full-service investment bank, offers a wide range of capital markets products and services to corporate, government, and institutional clients who choose us for our innovation, execution, and experience. With more than 7,000 professionals operating out of 32 cities across the globe, TD Securities is helping clients meet their needs today and prepare for tomorrow.
Our next inductee this evening is the late Donald Roderick MacLean. Please enjoy this video celebrating Don's life.
Donald Roderick MacLean had a deep and unwavering commitment to safety. That, coupled with his engineering expertise and entrepreneurial spirit, motivated him to develop innovative technology that significantly enhanced safety in underground mining.
The introduction of the long-tom drill by MacLean Engineering was a significant improvement to miners with respect to the safety and health of a miner and productivity. The MacLean bolter enabled the miner to move away from unsecured ground.
Those are just two of the innovative products introduced by a man who was destined to enter the mining industry. Born in Winnipeg in 1937, Don spent his childhood living in small mining towns like Chibougamau and Malartic in Quebec, where his father, Don Ducky MacLean, was a mine manager. Even Don's childhood play involved mining.
My friend Bobby and I, we got a clothesline pulley and we had a shaft and we hoisted muck out of it. We didn't get very deep. I didn't know much else because I never knew that there were anything but mining engineers.
Don began working at mines at the age of 14. Too young to work underground, he spent time operating a cargo canoe. The next 2 summers he spent in the assay office and as an electrical assistant.
He had a broad understanding of what mining was about. And then, as he said, he never knew another kind of engineering except mining engineering.
In 1957, Don went to study pre-engineering at Acadia University, completing his engineering degree at McGill University in Montreal in 1959. At 20, he had already obtained a job as an underground shift boss with International Nickel near Sudbury, Ontario.
It was also a period when mining equipment was just beginning to make a transition from rail-based trams to mobile equipment. And that was the sort of beginning of his idea.
In 1967, after gaining much valuable underground experience, Don moved into equipment sales at Ingersoll Rand. Next, he moved to JMG Engineering in Thornbury, Ontario as an operations manager. In 1973, Don's strong commitment to safety led him to create MacLean Engineering. It started in the barn of his apple orchard in Thornbury.
They made maybe 1 machine a month. And it now has 4 plants in Ontario, Barrie, Sudbury, Collingwood, and Owen Sound. It has branches all across Canada, and it's international. So he has branches in Australia and South Africa, in Mexico, South America.
After 50 years in operation, the company has grown to more than 1,200 employees with 250,000 square feet of manufacturing space. Since its inception, it has produced many innovative products like the Long Tom, Lock Holder, and Scissor Bolter, all having a profound effect on underground mining safety.
One of the engineers at Cementation did a presentation. What he did was he tracked 13 years of mine development in the company and the injury frequency for handheld versus semi-mechanized equipment. The difference with semi-mechanized drilling, 824 less medical aid injuries in that 10 or 12 year period, 75 less lost time injuries. This equipment had a huge impact on safety in our industry.
In 2015, MacLean Engineering began leading the way in the development of electric vehicles for underground mining.
Battery electric equipment reduces the ventilation required underground. It reduces the carbon footprint because you're not burning diesel now.
Don experienced a full circle moment when the new Odyssey mine in Malartic decided to equip itself with MacLean Engineering's electric vehicles.
The underground mine that is being built at what was East Malartic Mines, where we lived, basically right where our house was located. Here his dream of bringing electric underground equipment is actually being used right where he lived and grew up as a young person.
MacLean is front and center with new technology, so they're not resting on their laurels. They're moving forward. Geez, I sound like an ad for MacLean Engineering, but the best ads are usually customers, right?
Don passed away in 2024, but his family continues building on his legacy, with his son, 4 grandchildren, and nephew all holding leadership roles in the company. Don's commitment to safety is still at the core of the company's culture. Don's memory lives on in the lives of people who had the privilege of knowing him.
Don was clear-thinking and focused on providing the right solution for each mine, never afraid to put a fresh sheet of paper on the design table. Indeed, within the last decade, well into his late 70s, Don encouraged the next generation of MacLean management to develop an entire fleet of battery electric vehicles for rock bolting and delivery of mine services on mobile platforms.
He always worked to make sure his employees really felt part of the company. He could walk on the floor and he could talk to individuals and he knew every single person. You know, the last time he walked in the plant, that's where he wanted to be. He didn't want to be sitting in his desk.
Don was certainly well known and well liked in the industry. And I thought about a descriptor for Don would be, he was a gentleman. He was someone that you wanted to sit down and have lunch with, someone you wanted to talk to. He was an interesting guy. He was a joy to be with.
Accepting this award on Don's behalf, we're privileged to welcome Don's wife, Catherine. Please join us on stage, Catherine, to accept the award.
Good evening. Edith Piaf sang in French, "No, I will have no regrets." I believe that's how Don would have summarized his life. He gave it his all. Donald Roderick MacLean was a kind, gentle, warm-hearted man with a great sense of both humor and purpose. He was a compassionate, generous man, committed to making a difference in the lives of others in the mining industry and beyond, with his support of the arts, sport, and healthcare in its broadest sense. He was a mentor to many. Mining ran through his veins from his earliest days until his death almost exactly 1 year ago today. It was well known that in the early days of the industry, thousands of miners in Canada lost their lives due to cave-ins, explosions, slides, and fires. When fire broke out in the East Malartic mine, Don was in his 10th year and witnessed his father agonize over his decision to flood the mine without knowing the fate of the miners trapped 1,000 feet below the surface. Another tragedy struck the same mine a few months later, bringing the total number of lives lost in that one mine alone to 16 in a span of just 6 months. Those memories and recurring nightmares haunted Don until the very end. Being witness to such tragedies and others along the way set the trajectory of his entire life. He was absolutely committed to make safer working conditions in the mines. His scissor bolter was revolutionary. He was also dedicated to creating and sustaining jobs both at home and around the world. South Africa, Chile, Peru, Mexico, Australia, the United States. He was troubled when layoffs were necessary and supported solutions that would bring workers back as quickly as possible. Don was a principled man and refused to travel to South Africa for over 20 years while apartheid was in effect. His concern about the effects of diesel-powered equipment in the mines drove his determination to produce the first MacLean battery-operated bolter. Don had a brilliant mind and was always 10 steps ahead of everyone else while juggling multiple concepts at the same time. Don was a man of contrasts. He could quote the lyrics of several of the old country and Western tunes, but he loved classical music, Edith Piaf, and Oscar Peterson's Hymn to Freedom. He loved mucking around outside with the tractor or whatever else was out in the barn, but he also loved to dress up. If he was with us today, he would be standing proudly before you in his best tuxedo with his grandfather's gold watch and chain. He wasn't light on his feet, but oh, how he loved to dance. He proudly wore his MacLean engineering ball caps, but was widely known for his collection of fedoras, white straw in the summer and black felt in the other seasons. Barely a day went by when he wasn't stopped by a woman, young or old, telling him how much they loved his fedora. Maybe that's why he always wore them. He was always cheerful and never got angry, with two exceptions: when dealing with the CRA or with Rogers. You can identify with that. Don loved people and listening to their stories. He was a great storyteller himself and would regale friends with tales from his life or recite poetry from his youth. He was a very articulate man until dementia slowly stole his ability to communicate effectively. Don loved his family deeply. His two sisters, one of whom is with us tonight, our collective 4 children, their spouses, and our 15 grandchildren, 11 of whom are with us as we pay tribute to our beloved Don and Grandpa. We have another generation as well, a great-granddaughter, Elena, and a great-grandson, soon to make his entrance into the world. On behalf of the extended MacLean family, I would like to express our deepest appreciation and gratitude to Don's nominators, the CIM, and the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame for the prestigious award you have bestowed on Don this evening. He would be truly honored and humbled. Thank you.
Well, clearly, Don wasn't the only articulate one in the MacLean household. Incredible job, Catherine. Incredible job. Thank you for that great celebration of Don's amazing contribution to this industry. Now, before we introduce our next inductee, we're now going to recognize tonight's gold sponsors. Thank you to them.
The Canadian Mining Hall of Fame would like to thank our gold sponsors, Barrick and Stiefel.
Okay, our next inductee this evening is Frank Giustra. We're going to turn to the screen. We're going to enjoy a video about Frank's inspiring life and his amazing career.
Frank Giustra's entrepreneurial spirit, passion for life, and determination to succeed have left an enduring mark on the mining industry.
One thing that he's always impressed me with is just the amount of passion that he throws into anything, and he's not scared to explore into unknown territory. He's never really moving at 100%. It's usually 150 or 200%. He's always going strong at whatever he's attacking.
Frank is this fountain of entrepreneurial energy and financial ingenuity who has spawned numerous innovative resource concepts that over decades have contributed to Canada's growing stature as the global leader in natural resources.
Frank's philosophy stems from a belief that anything can be done.
The thing that makes me crazy in this life is when people say it can't be done. Anything can be done if you put your mind to it.
Born in Sudbury, Ontario in 1957, Frank's drive to succeed was sparked at an early age.
We didn't have a lot of money growing up. It was tough. My father, worked very hard to bring home a paycheck, and, he wasn't a wealthy man. My initial ambition was just to make money. And I had no idea what I was doing or where I was heading. I had no idea I was going into mining.
After moving with family to Italy and Argentina, the family eventually settled in Aldergrove, BC. After studying finance at Douglas College in Vancouver, Frank's first job was with Merrill Lynch as a stockbroker. In 1980, he moved to Yorkton Securities, then a small 3-person office.
And I came in as a junior partner. I was very young, I was like 22. Immediately, I started to drive the business in a different direction. I wanted to get us into the financing business.
Frank successfully developed Yorkton Securities into a leading natural resource investment bank, opening offices in London, Zurich, and Paris. At 36 years old, he had served as president, chairman, and CEO. By 1996, Frank was looking for something new.
We were doing really well, and I thought, well, that's it. I've done that. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do something else.
In 1997, a love of filmmaking led Frank to create Lionsgate Entertainment, which has become one of the world's largest independent film companies. But a desire for new challenges and an interest in economics brought him back to the mining industry. Frank's first project was Wheaton River Minerals with Ian Telfer.
We met with Rothschilds in New York, and they were very nervous about our ability to raise money. We had a market cap of, 20 million, and they were asking 100 million, and we said, yeah, no problem, we can raise that. And they're going, who are these guys? And so Frank was very, very instrumental in convincing them that we could do this.
Wheaton River became Goldcorp a couple of years later, which at one point was the largest market capitalization of any gold company in the world. In 2011, I think it reached close to $50 billion.
The successful streaming company Silver Wheaton, now Wheaton Precious Metals, was spun out of Goldcorp. As chairman of Endeavor Financial, Frank's belief in gold, talent for creating relationships, and the ability to obtain financing led to more than 200 successful mining projects. This included creating and selling a uranium company. Frank was also key in establishing Nations Royalty, which has become the largest Indigenous-owned public mining company.
To be a successful mining promoter, you've got to come up with a good idea, then you have to convince other people that it's a good idea, then you have to convince the financial markets it's a good idea, and then you have to make it a success. And Frank is good at all 4 of those things and has a track record to prove it.
Frank says that much of his success is based in luck and surrounding himself with great people.
All I do is surround myself with really smart people. They do all the work. And I just sit back and give strategy, give advice, make connections, put in money, all the things. And they're amazing.
Although Frank's initial drive as a young man was to make money, he says he realized life was about more than that.
I think it happens to a lot of people that become successful or wealthy or both. It's like you go, there's got to be more. It just feels empty.
That realization led to a lifetime commitment to philanthropy, starting with a family foundation in 1997. Frank is known locally and internationally as a man who doesn't just write checks, but rolls his sleeves up to do the work, starting locally by spending nights on the streets of Vancouver talking to people who are homeless.
If you really want to help, you got to immerse yourself and understand what the beneficiary needs.
Frank expanded his work internationally, first working with the Clinton Foundation. He then developed his own initiative called Accesso, which addresses world poverty.
Here was the aspiration. Find a model of philanthropy that is both sustainable and scalable and transferable. We've raised income levels by 2 or 3 times. We've created jobs that never existed before.
The model is working successfully in several countries. Frank is also co-chair of the International Crisis Group. He has received many awards for his contributions, including the Order of Canada, the Order of British Columbia, and the Dalai Lama Humanitarian Award. Frank has demonstrated the same passion diving into many interests and industries, from writing songs and owning a recording studio to making award-winning olive oil. But there is always a place in his heart for mining.
When people ask me if I'm ever going to retire, I go, and do what? You know, and it's just like, this is what I love. It's fun.
Frank's innate sense of adventure and willingness to do things that scare him seem to have been the perfect mindset for making an impact in the mining industry.
He's someone that wants to explore the opportunities. He's not going to let something get in the way. He is someone that will push his way through to try and get to whatever the objective is and test those boundaries.
I have watched Frank build companies and successfully remind people of what a critical industry mining is for all of us. It was not just a core resource industry in Canada's past. Frank Giustra has reminded us all that it is an essential industry to the future to which we all aspire.
Frank's latest mining ventures include mines and exploration projects in Canada and South America. Having raised over $5 billion since 2001 as chairman of the Fiore Group, Frank continues to be a strong advocate for the mining industry.
I don't know if you all figured it out from my name, but I do have a bit of Italian heritage in my background, so I like my olive oil. I have never seen olive oil that looks that good, Frank. I don't know what the color of that was incredible. So with that, I'd like to ask you, Frank, to come up on the stage and receive your award.
So I feel a bit embarrassed because I came rather unprepared. I've been traveling for the last few weeks and I didn't get an opportunity to write an acceptance speech. But lucky for me, one of my colleagues at the table asked my old friend and former partner, Ian Telford, to write one for me. So I've got it here somewhere. I haven't read it yet, but let's see what Ian thinks I ought to say. Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, it is with profound humility that I accept this recognition. To be honored by such a prestigious institution as the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame, an institution that has previously celebrated some of Canada's true industry giants, legends such as Ian Telford and others, is truly humbling. I am deeply grateful for this honor. You see, in 2001, when I was a struggling Hollywood mogul, I had an idea to create a gold mining company. Not knowing the first thing about running a mining company, I realized I needed someone with experience, vision, and charm. I could only come up with one name, Ian Telford. Thus, Wheaton River was born, a company which would merge with Goldcorp. In the ensuing years, Goldcorp would go on to reach great heights, reaching a market cap of nearly $50 billion in 2011. This achievement would have never been possible without the leadership of Ian Telford. And that was only the beginning. I often get credit for the creation of Wheaton Precious Metals, Randy's sitting with us tonight, which today boasts a market cap of around $27 billion. In fact, it was Ian Telford's idea. I did not fully understand the concept of streaming, but I thought, what the hell, I will go along for the ride. The truth is that I'm a bit of a fraud. Really? Yes, I often come up with ideas, assemble talented people around me, raise the initial rounds of capital, etc. But then I let everybody else do all the hard work while I spend all my time running around giving speeches and collecting awards. In 2005, I stepped down from Goldcorp, the board, in order to turn my attention to the creation of Eurasia, a uranium mining company with assets in Kazakhstan. I had good management in place, but I still felt a bit insecure launching it without a big name attached. Again, Ian Telford came to mind. And I talked him into taking the role of chair. With Ian at the helm, we raised $500 million in equity, then the largest mining financing ever on the TSX. Sadly, our involvement in a Kazakh uranium company landed us in a political shitstorm in the US, as we became the target of a number of US media outlets during 2 separate election seasons over an 8-year period. What had been a huge market and business success was overshadowed by my selfish $30 million donation to the Clinton Foundation's HIV/AIDS initiative. My need for attention helped tarnish the reputations of many of my associates, including Ian Telford. I am deeply sorry that I allowed my global philanthropic ambitions to get in the way of business. Years later, Neil Woodyer and I got lucky with the success of our endeavor mining in West Africa. So we decided to try our luck a second time and launched Leagold without the support of Ian Telford. As a result, we sold far too soon to Ross Beatty's Equinox for far less than its true value. Neil and I would never make that mistake again. So when we launched Eris Mining a few years ago, we again turned to Ian Telford. He currently serves as our chairman and inspiration. Although Ian and I are great friends, we often disagree, sometimes not speaking for weeks on end. In the end, he is always right, and I come around. Ian often likes to remind me, hard as you may try, Frank, to lose me as a friend, you will never get rid of me. Thank you, Ian, for many decades. You have enriched my life. Thanks, Ian. I think.
Frank really brings it. Fantastic. While we all digest our laughter, yeah, one more round. He deserves it. That was incredible. A sponsor thank you before our final inductee of the evening.
Thank you to our silver sponsors, BMO Capital Markets, Haywood Securities, and Magris Performance Materials.
Okay, I feel it's flying by this evening. We're already at our final one. Mr. Sean Boyd, please turn your attention to the screens to learn about his career.
Sean Boyd's stellar reputation as a company builder is grounded in his business excellence and a quiet determination to do the right thing. Under Sean's leadership, Agnico Eagle Mine's market cap has grown from $400 million to over $55 billion.
Sean has always been able, with his team, to make acquisitions that have been incredibly successful for Agnico Eagle. And he built this company that was a one-mine company when he joined to today the 3rd largest gold producer in the world.
We have a mission statement which hasn't really changed a lot in decades, and it's this simple. It's to create above average returns for our shareholders, which we've done really well at. It's to create a great place to work for our employees, and it's to make meaningful contributions to our communities. And we are sitting here now being able to say that we did all those 3 things.
He struck a balance between business and the communities, between our employees, their families, the suppliers, the communities. It's a large constituency, and he handled it so well. Respected, and people came to him because he's a man of integrity.
Not only does Sean have a great business sense and a vision of where he's wanted to move Agnico Eagle, but he also possesses the interpersonal skills to lead people towards that vision.
Sean was born in Ottawa in 1958, but spent his youth in Scarborough, Ontario, and high school years in Aurora. He graduated from the University of Toronto with a Bachelor of Commerce degree in 1981 and became a chartered accountant in 1985. His first job in 1981 was as a staff accountant with Clarkson & Gordon.
Back in 1983, the group that I worked with at Clarkson & Gordon got a new client, a mining client called Agnico Eagle. And I was fortunate to work on that client and do that work for a couple of years, get to know the principals.
In 1985, Agnico Eagle hired Sheahan. He successfully worked his way through the ranks, from comptroller to chief financial officer, vice chair and chief executive officer to chair of the board.
I was attracted to the people. It was a small office. There was only 5 people at Agnico Eagle when I joined in 1985, but Paul Penna was such a wonderful person. It just was a good fit, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
The company grew based on a sound strategy, expanding from the LaRonde mine in Canada into Finland, Mexico, and Australia.
What we tried to do is keep our financial risk low, don't take on a lot of debt, keep the geopolitical risk low, and we would define that as us being comfortable that we could stay multiple decades and build up a business over time in those regions like we had done in Ontario and Quebec.
Agnico Eagle now operates 11 mines, employing over 16,000 people. One of the most challenging expansions was to Nunavut, where building a mine meant facing harsh winter conditions.
It wasn't easy at the start. I think we had a substantial write-down of the Meadowbank asset after 2 or 3 years, but we found that we could see long-term, we could see the opportunity there, and we see more opportunity now than we saw back in 2007 when we started there.
Underlying all expansion is a strong company culture based on doing the right thing.
He took that culture, Sheahan did, he nurtured it, enhanced it, and to me it's our most valuable asset. It sets us apart from the other companies. And his quiet leadership was very fitting.
Sheahan Boyd instilled policies that made Agnico a model of environmental, social, and governance performance for a mining company in the 21st century.
Those policies have resulted in many successful programs, including the building of community centers with sports and arts facilities, daycare programs, and bringing power to communities that had none. It was during the COVID crisis that Agnico Eagle excelled in its commitment to people, implementing testing, sending people home with pay, and implementing the Good Deeds Brigade.
We had our employees who were at home come back out into the community and volunteer their time at food kitchens, at daycares, through all sorts of community initiatives. And in that case, for those employees, they would get 100% of their pay. For employees that weren't able to participate or didn't participate in that, they were still getting 75% of their pay. And that went on for 18 months until it was safe to have those employees return to work.
Sheahan has received many accolades for his work with Agnico Eagle. This includes being named one of Harvard Business Review's best performing CEOs in the world 3 times, and Mining Person of the Year by the Northern Miner twice. Sheahan has been an active board member and trustee at many organizations like the Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation and the University Health Network. Agnico Eagle has also made a multi-million-dollar donation to St. Michael's Foundation.
As a result, St. Michael's Hospital has been able to build state-of-the-art cardiac surgery and oncology units, bolster our leading programs in urology and orthopedics, and spur globally pioneering work in remote robotic surgery that will one day, in fact very soon, make it possible for patients in remote communities to get urgent, life-saving treatment by St. Michael's top surgeons.
Agnico Eagle also supports the community where it got its start, contributing $1 million to the historic Cobalt Legacy Fund. The company established the Leanne Baker Scholarship to help women achieve their career goals.
It's beyond our expectations when we started it, to see the quality of the individual that's coming through the program.
Sheahan's peers are quick to praise his astute business mind, overall character, and ability to build a company that is not only a mining industry success, but a Canadian business success as one of Canada's largest public corporations.
Mining is a tough business, and he rose to those challenges, and we had a number of them. And we thrived and survived. If our founder came back, he wouldn't believe where we sat today. We're Canadians, and this is a Canadian company, and he kept it that way, and he made sure it was kept that way. And that's important to us.
He gives the shareholder the great confidence that he manages political risk, he manages mining risk, he manages environmental risk, because these countries all require the absolute best in terms of social and environmental performance, and that's what he delivers.
Sean says he is happy to have been able to spend his career working in the town he calls home.
We've made it a great place to work where people can build careers over time, and I'm not unique. Being here 40 years, we have many people that have been here for decades, and that's the beauty of the company and what we've been able to accomplish.
Sean, please join us on stage.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the producers of the videos tonight. I think this is one of the highlights when you come to these events over the years. You really enjoy the videos, and you can see the reaction that families have when they see their family members up. And I certainly reflected when I saw that, and seeing the early day pictures, thinking of my parents who really created a foundation and encouragement for me. And this would have went a different way. When I was filling out the applications for university, finishing up grade 13, I was sitting at the kitchen table and I was filling out the forms to go into phys ed. And my parents, well, what are you doing? Where are you going? And what are you taking? And I told them. My dad said, I don't know, are you sure? I said, yeah, I think that'd be good. He said, don't you like business? I said, yeah, that'd be good too. And so that's what I ended up doing. So probably wouldn't be here if I was went the phys ed route. But I'd like to thank the Northern Miner. I'd like to thank the Northern Miner not just for the nomination, but for their decades and decades of support for the mining business. You know, through thick and thin, the Northern Miner has been there telling the great story of mining in Canada. Thank you, Anthony, for all the work you do. Thank you, Deborah, and the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame for this wonderful honor. I'd also like to congratulate Frank and Pat and the family of Don, and say what a pleasure it is to be going into the Hall of Fame with them, and also to thank their families for the support that they've given to their inductees. And I also like to thank everybody here, because with your presence here, it shows your support and your well wishes through the evening to all of us have really uplifted us. So we're really happy to be here. So as Anthony mentioned, as we saw in the video, some 40 years ago, I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to join a very small company, Agnico Eagle, joining Paul Penna and 4 other people in the head office. One of those 4 employees is here, Virginia De La Cruz. Virginia, it's great to see you tonight. It's a big part of that small office, but little did I know 40 years ago when I started at Agnico that would be the start of an incredible journey for my wife, Peta, and I. And so thank you, Peta, for sharing that journey with me. Thank you for your hard work and for your love and support over all those years, and the love and support you've given our 4 children, Kevin, Matthew, Lucas, and Monica. And I'd also like to thank a subset of our very large family who are here tonight. That's only a subset of the very large family for all the support you've given me. So one of the really special joys of working for Agnico Eagle for 40 years has really been the people. You know, that's really a highlight. You know, you have, mines working, mines not working, and you have challenges, but the constant is the quality of the people, and I've been blessed. So I'm very proud of the work that our employees and our board members, past and present, the way they have worked together to build an outstanding business in a way that uplifted each other and uplifted the communities and the partners that we were fortunate to work with for many, many years. So I'd like to thank a few people personally and give special thank yous, of course, to Paul Penna, who got all this started and hired me in 1985. And Paul's example of perseverance and generosity still drives Agnico Eagle today. Ebe Shirkus, a Hall of Fame member, an exceptional operator, a more exceptional mine builder. And Ebe has that unique ability of being able to look at a deposit and see a mine there before anybody else. Jim Nasso. Thank you, Jim, for your participation in the video, and also thank you to Pierre for participating in the video. Jim Nasso, who's been a friend for over 40 years, has really set the standard for board chairs in Canada. Jim's strength is to get us focused on really what is important. We always knew that Jim had our back, and Jim was fantastic in being able to raise our spirits when we were going through some challenging times. All of these individuals are great leaders, and they've been a really big part of our success. We've achieved our success because we've been patient. We've thought long term. We had a strategy that worked, and it worked because it was really well matched to the skill sets that we had, and we really stuck to it. But really what we were trying to do all along is just build a high quality business that actually just happened to mine for gold. We always knew our place. Our place was to really be responsible stewards of our owners' money, and to be trusted and respectful partners to those people we worked with. We really kept things simple. We invested steadily through the cycles. We bought early. We drilled. We built. We drilled some more. We bought some more. And we were always in constant expansion mode. But as we were doing all this, we were always mindful. Financial results are really important. We all know that. But we were mindful that people would not really remember exactly what our earnings were in a certain year. They would not really remember what we actually paid in dividends in that year. But ultimately, they'd remember what type of employer we were, and they'd remember what we did for our communities. So that's what really drove us. But our story is not unique. It's like many of your stories. In the early years, we were struggling to survive, like a lot of companies do when you're small. Our job was to scramble and raise money, as Ebe and Elaine Blackburn, who's here as well, come to know in terms of trying to keep those drills going. We were always battling to build mines in tough jurisdictions. And while we were doing that, we were working hard to meet the quarterly expectations and delivering on the long-term plans of the company. But as you also know, mining is not an easy business. It's simply not. But I think we all know that mining is really important. And essentially over the last century plus, mining has been one of the principal reasons that we have the country we have today in Canada. It's done a tremendous amount of good, not just in finding the metals that we all need, but in growing economies and creating opportunity and building communities. And that's what's really important. And I think what's interesting when you think about it, and you think about the contribution that the industry's made for so long, we're actually in a very unique and strong position right now as an industry. We're actually in a position as an industry to lead in some of the most crucial areas for this country. And that's really important. We're going to lead in terms of finding new critical metal deposits and getting them built. We have a tremendous opportunity to help the governments of the country get presence in the north, which means sovereignty. We have a tremendous opportunity to partner with our Defense, Department of National Defense in sharing infrastructure, and we've been involved in some of those discussions. We're also in a position to create growth in parts of the country that don't see a lot of growth. So there's a lot of things that we can do. And I think it's incumbent on all of us to continue to make the case that going forward, this country needs more mines. This country needs more Canadian-based mining companies than fewer mines and fewer Canadian-based mining companies. So I think that's what we're focused on doing at Agnico this year. You're going to see us elevate our communications in terms of how we can sort of work together and work hard. I'd like to turn to and have a little bit of fun now And we talk about how challenging the industry could be, and but you can actually have fun doing it even when things aren't going well. And I'll just address a couple of stories. So we used to go on CNBC Mad Money quite a bit with Jim Cramer, and it was great to be on Mad Money when things were going well. It was very difficult when things weren't going well. So we were having a quarter which was not going well. Everything that could go wrong was going wrong. And so we were saying to our communications people, you know, has Cramer called? Are we on? No, he hasn't called yet. Well, we better call him, because if we don't call him, he's going to think we're ducking him. So we better go on. So we got set up to go on. And in those days when you weren't physically on the set, you were at some small dark studio in Toronto looking into a camera lens, and you couldn't see Cramer on there, and he's very visual. All you could hear was his voice. And so normally Cramer would come on and talk to you and loosen things up. This time he didn't come on. So number one, I go, okay, this isn't going to be the best. And so the interview starts, and I'm looking into this camera lens, and I hear Cramer like he's eating something, like he's chomping on something. And I'm thinking, oh boy, what's this? And then I hear him chomping and saying, boy, did I get this wrong. And then he's chomping some more. And he says, that was a bad call. He says, of course I got to eat a crow sandwich. And essentially what he had 2 slices of bread, and he had a bird in there, and he was pretending he was eating a crow sandwich. And then he said, it just kept getting worse. And then he said, you know what, I've made a lot of bad calls, but this is one of the worst calls I've ever made. Going, oh, this isn't very good. So we finish it. And then after Cramer usually comes on, he didn't come on. The producer came on. The producer said, well, thanks for coming on. And at least you got to give your side of the story. And I said, remember, I called you. And they said, that's why you're coming on again. So I'm driving home. I didn't see the live broadcast. I go home and talking to Peta and the kid. Whoa, that wasn't very good. But then the phone rang, and it was my mother. And my mother, first thing she says, that man wasn't very nice to you tonight. Okay, so she hit the nail on the head. But so we don't get a lot of good press over time outside of the Northern Miner, but we do get some. And when we get some, we keep it. And sometimes it's not that factual. But we had a week in 1999, the stock was up 9% in a week. So we hit the Globe and Mail. So they have the Stars and Dogs. So we were a star that week. So I had to keep it because this was classic. And it kind of captures sort of who we are and how we thought about our business. So it starts off, it says, just how macho are Sean Boyd and his lads? It says, well, the executive suites are upholstered in gravel. Now, that wasn't quite true. We were very modest and frugal, and the offices were very lean. So kind of didn't quite get it. But then he went on to say, the penalty for missing production targets is an arm. Again, not quite true. It was an arm and a leg. Then he went on to say, the directors have 1 good leg and 4 bloodshot eyes between them. That was a very accurate description of our board. No doubt about it. And then he said, in a red-hot gold market, where other miners got caught out with fancy pants hedging games, Agnico played it straight, which was 100% true. So why this is even more special than it normally would be is that one of the great things about the industry is the generosity of sharing knowledge and including young people in meetings so they get to learn. And Paul Penna was fantastic at that. So in the late 80s, I was fortunate to be invited into a meeting that Paul was having with Mort Brown. So Mort Brown was the publisher of the Northern Miner. And so it was the 3 of us in the room, and Mort was coming in and describing an idea he had to Paul and enlisting Paul's help. That idea was to create the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. So both Paul and Mort were fabulous businessmen, great storytellers. They really embraced the chase for discovery and new deposits. But the one thing they did, more importantly than anything else, is they understood the importance of mining to Canada, and they understood the importance of celebrating the tremendous achievements of the industry and the tremendous and extraordinary goodness of this industry. So to be joining both of them in the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame after being in that meeting after all these years is truly an honor that I'm very grateful and thankful for. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Congratulations, Sean, and thank you for all those amazing words. And yeah, that spirit of celebration is so important. This can be a hard industry. Sometimes it feels like we don't have a lot of friends outside of these walls. So to have moments like this where we all come together and celebrate greatness is really special. And thank you to all of you for being here. Thank you to our sponsors for making it such an amazing night. This concludes our inductions for the class of 2025. A huge congratulations again, and a giant round of applause for the newest members of the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame, Pat, Don, Frank, Sean. Amazing. Let's also not forget future Hall of Fame members. If you know someone who has had an exemplary career in Canadian mining, and if you deem them an extraordinary leader, consider nominating them. Our call for 2026 nominations is going to open up in the spring, everyone. You can submit in partnership with our member organizations. Are we going to put them up there, Scott? There we go. Those are our main member associations. We also have supporting associate member organizations that you can submit through. So please take note of that. Again, just a massive thank you to our sponsors, for all of you for coming out on a frigid evening. The night is not over yet, my friends. You can join us all for a nightcap or 3 in the conversation room, 104. See you all there. Thanks, everyone.